I owed the government $48,750. I still remember the number. It was printed in bold, unforgiving letters on a notice from the Federal Revenue Service. It didn't come in a normal envelope. No, this came via certified mail. The kind you have to go to the post office for, show your ID, and sign a little slip of paper. The kind that never, ever brings good news. Standing there in my beautiful, expensive apartment, I just stared at that number. My brain short-circuited. $48,000? I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking a little, and checked my bank balance. $3,214. The math was simple. I wasn't the successful freelance entrepreneur my friends and family thought I was. I was a 30-year-old man who had built a fantasy life on a foundation of willful ignorance. And holding that letter, I realized the fantasy was over. Just 2 years before that letter arrived, my life was fine, completely stable. I was a 28-year-old graphic designer at a marketing firm, making a respectable $60,000 a year. It was enough to cover rent, my student loans, and a little bit of fun. I even had a $5,000 emergency fund. I was doing everything right. But I was creatively dying. My days were a blur of designing soulless corporate logos and boring banner ads. The work was safe, but it was chipping away at my soul. My dream wasn't really to be rich. It was just to be in control. I wanted to choose my own clients, work on projects I actually cared about, and build something that was truly mine. Have you ever felt that, trapped in a job? That feeling that you'd do anything to get out? So, I did what millions of people do. I started a side hustle. I polished up my portfolio and signed up for one of those freelance platforms. My goal was modest: make an extra $500 a month, just to scratch that creative itch. I had absolutely no idea I was taking my first step into a financial minefield. At first, it was a dream. I landed a few small logo jobs, the clients were thrilled, and that first $1,000 I earned on my own, it felt more real than any corporate paycheck I'd ever received. Word of mouth spread, and my little side hustle quickly grew from a few hundred a month to a few thousand. I was working 70-hour weeks between my day job and my freelance gigs, but I was energized. I wasn't tired at all. I was building my escape hatch. 6 months in, my freelance income was consistently higher than my salary. The logic felt undeniable. It seemed so obvious. If I quit my job, I could double my clients and therefore double my income. It seemed like the safest bet in the world. So I did it. I put in my 2 weeks, walked out of that office, and felt like I'd just broken out of prison. And for a while, it felt like I had. My income exploded. In my first full year of freelancing, I grossed just over $92,000. All of it went straight into my personal checking account. There was no payroll department, no automatic deductions, just these huge, beautiful deposits from clients. I'd never seen my bank balance look so healthy. Seeing those numbers pop up on my phone, it was addictive. This is where my first and biggest mistake took hold. I treated all that revenue as my salary. Logically, I knew taxes were a thing, of course, but emotionally, I just pushed it aside. I told myself it was a problem for future me. I'd just sort it out at tax time like I always had. So, I upgraded my life. I upgraded it fast. I moved into a trendy downtown loft with 12-foot ceilings and a rent to match. I bought a brand new maxed-out computer, telling myself it was a business expense. I took a 2-week vacation to Thailand and didn't check a single price tag. I was living the life I'd always wanted, and I felt like I deserved every single second of it. The first red flag came in January. My client sent me these 1099 forms reporting how much they'd paid me. I added it all up, $92,000. I plugged that number into a cheap online tax software, and it spat back a number that made my heart stop. I owed over $25,000. I was just stunned. How? I didn't understand something called self-employment tax. Basically, when you have a regular job, your employer pays half of your Social Security and Medicare taxes. But when you're self-employed, you have to pay both halves yourself. It's a brutal 15.3% tax that hits you before you even pay your regular income tax. Paying that bill wiped out my entire $5,000 emergency fund and then some. It was painful, but I rationalized it away. Okay, I told myself, that was a one-time stupid tax. A lesson learned. Next year, I'll be smarter. But I wasn't. The second year was even better financially. I landed a huge contract and my gross income soared to $120,000. But my habits didn't change at all. I even heard other freelancers talking about paying quarterly estimated taxes, basically sending the government a payment every 3 months. I just remember nodding along at conversation, pretending I knew what they meant, too embarrassed to admit I had no idea. Be honest with me. Would you have asked for help, or would you have been too embarrassed, like I was? I was trapped in a cycle of willful ignorance. I knew there was a monster in the closet, but I was making too much money to want to open the door. I kept telling myself I'd hire an accountant, but I kept putting it off, because deep down, I was terrified of what they would tell me. So I just fell back into my old pattern: earn, spend, and deny. I didn't set aside a single dollar for taxes, not one. I was living on 100% of my gross income, a mistake so fundamental it's embarrassing to even admit now. When that second tax season arrived, I was paralyzed with fear. I knew I'd made more money, and I knew I had spent all of it. I didn't have $30,000 or $40,000 sitting around to pay the bill. So I did the absolute worst thing you can possibly do. I did nothing. I just buried my head in the sand and hoped the government would forget I existed. For a few months, my denial actually felt like a victory. No letters, no emails. Maybe I'd slip through the cracks. That foolish hope was completely shattered by that certified letter. Holding that notice for $48,750, the world just went quiet. That number wasn't just the taxes I owed on my $120,000 income. It was a cocktail of financial poison. First, there was the original tax bill, around $35,000. Then the failure to file penalty. That's a percentage of what I owed, charged every single month my return was late. Then came the failure to pay penalty, another percentage, charged every month my bill went unpaid. And the worst part? Interest, compounding daily on all of it. The tax, the penalties, everything. I just sank onto my expensive couch and felt a wave of nausea wash over me. To the outside world, I was a success story. In reality, I was worse than broke. I had a negative net worth deeper than my student loans. The freedom I thought I had was a complete and total illusion. I wasn't my own boss. My new boss was the Revenue Service, and they are a creditor you can never, ever escape. You can't declare bankruptcy on federal tax debt. It follows you forever. In that moment, I realized I hadn't just failed my dream. I had personally, through arrogance and denial, strangled it to death. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. The shame was suffocating. I couldn't work. Every client email felt like an accusation. I finally hit rock bottom and did what I should have done 2 years earlier. I called my parents and confessed everything. They helped me find a tax resolution specialist, and that first meeting was the most humiliating hour of my life. I laid out all my bank statements, and he just looked at me with this tired, seen-it-all-before expression. "You've made a serious mess," he said, "but it's fixable. It's just going to be painful." He immediately filed my overdue tax return to stop the penalties from growing. Then we set up an installment agreement with the government. In the end, they approved a payment plan. The terms were brutal. $508 every single month for the next 8 years. 96 payments. My dream life vanished overnight. I broke the lease on my loft, I sold my new computer, my social life evaporated. The freelance business I once loved now felt like a high-stress job where my only goal was to pay for a single colossal mistake. It took me years, but I paid it all off. And that pain taught me 3 lessons that I will never, ever forget. Lesson 1. If you freelance, you are a business, period. The second you earn your first dollar, you are the CEO and the chief financial officer. Open a separate business bank account. All client payments go in there. That is the business's money, not your money. Lesson 2. Pay the tax man first, not last. From that business account, follow this rule. Take 30% of every single payment you receive and move it immediately into a separate savings account. Name that account Tax Money Do Not Touch. This one habit alone would have saved me from my entire nightmare. And lesson 3. Professional help is an investment, not an expense. My arrogance in thinking I could figure it out myself cost me nearly $50,000. A $500 consultation with an accountant at the very beginning would have been the single best investment of my life. Don't wait until you're lost to ask for a map. Get the map before you even start the journey. That debt is gone now. I rebuilt my business the right way this time. But the memory of that certified letter, that feeling in my gut, that never leaves you. It's a permanent reminder that financial freedom isn't about how much you earn. It's about how much you manage responsibly. So, I have to ask, if you were in my place back then, what would you have done? And more importantly, if you've ever been in a situation like this, even a small one, share your story in the comments below. Let's help each other learn from these mistakes so no one has to go through this kind of nightmare alone.